Good afternoon, everyone. Uncle Labs here, back. College admissions is nonsense. I took some time off because of existential dread that no one's going to watch this, which I know that no one is going to watch this. But if you don't do things because you're worried about someone, you're never going to do anything. You know, it's like I do a lot of things, and 50% of the time people say, "Oh, you like to blow glass, Chris? Are you trying to make money? Do it." I'm not trying to make money. I just like to do it, you know, so that's what this is about. I don't want any clients. I don't want any clicks. I don't want any video course subscriptions, whatever you can imagine I don't want. Just a reminder. Okay, today, because I didn't want to do another huge rant, I thought it's time for some helpful videos that will help you through the process. So today we're going to talk about the timeline of the college admissions process, and some parts of the timeline that are important that aren't related to the timeline, but for example, how to choose schools a little bit, touching on those things a little bit today. Timeline. All right, let's just imagine it being a year. This is the easiest way. Some of you high achievers, I know you're going to get started before this. That's fine. Let's imagine it being a year. And the year starts in January and ends in December, just like any other year in the history of time, okay? So you're going to do a year, and it's going to start in January, end in December. Okay. You're not going to be working that whole year, but that's when you're going to start. Which means you're going to start January of your junior year. So right now you're a sophomore. It's February 4th right now. You've got exactly like 11 months before you start. Right now you're a junior. It's February 4th. Oh my God, I'm late. You're fine. I'm just saying, think of it as a year. And the first thing you're going to do, it's January. You're going to decide when you're taking the test. Okay, standardized testing. There's the ACT. There's the SAT. You know this. Doesn't matter what you take. All those people that are like, well, it's actually, no. It's Coke and Pepsi. It's Toyota and Ford. Okay, these are competitors. Doesn't matter which one you take. It used to be a little bit different for different people because for some reason we were finding certain groups of people were doing better on the SAT, certain groups of people were preferring the ACT. But the SAT redesigned itself to be a little bit more like the ACT because people were preferring it for reasons I don't even bother understanding. And so now just choose whatever one you want. What some people will do, if you're like really into this, is you'll take a practice test on both of them, and you might decide you like one of them better. So that's what you'll do, and you'll decide when you're taking the test. So what I recommend you do is take it twice. Your mom's going to say take it 10 times. You're not going to get that much better of a score. You are going to get a better score if you take it twice, probably. And that's for a lot of reasons why we'll get into in the standardized testing section why I don't believe in standardized testing. Because there's 1,000 things that have to do with the test, and we're going to get into that. But like, for example, the reason you're probably going to do better if you take it twice is that all the things that have nothing to do with how smart you are will be helpful if you take it twice. For example, you'll be more confident how long it is. You'll be a little bit better managing your energy. You'll be a little bit better understanding the pace that you have to work at, things like that. So you're going to take it twice. You also should get test prep. Okay. If you talk to these people, they'll say test prep can't possibly help because it's a test that's supposed to test your aptitude. It's not true because there's a whole test prep industry out there that has proven it's not true. And I know this like personally. For example, I took the GMAT to get into business school, and there's a certain number of questions, certain types of questions that you just struggle with. I have no idea how to do this question, okay? There are 5 kids in a room with red hats, and there are 10 kids in the room with blue hats. And then there are 7 kids in the room with pants and 4 in the room with shorts. Which of them have shorts and green hats? I have zero idea how to do that. Do you know how to do that? I don't. But I learned how to do it in the test prep because that's a stupid question that they put on the GMAT. And then once I learned it, I said, oh, you got to like multiply across and you draw a 2x2 matrix, or I'm not even sure because that was over 15 years ago, I think. But the point is test prep. When are you going to start taking test prep? Somewhere around when I told you to start, which is January. And then you're going to take your first test. All right, let's see what the test dates are. I pulled them up. So for example, 2025, first test date is March 9th. Okay, you're going to take it. Then you're going to do some test prep, and you're going to take it again May 4th. You're done. LeBounty, I didn't like my score. All right, if you want to take it again, you have time. You can take it now June 1st. But if there's one thing I want to choke people out of doing is destroying your entire high school career taking tests, because you're not going to improve that much. And if you do, you think it's a big deal, but it's not. Okay, let me pull up for example, I'll pull up the ACT. I was just looking at this the other day. People have no idea what the percentiles are. All right, let's just talk about percentiles. What's percentile mean? Percentile is what percentage of people in the country who took this test, which, hold on, who took this test, a lot of people in the country do not take this test, right? What percentage of the people who took this test, and where do you fall in that distribution? Let's say you got 25. All right, I got 25 on the ACT. That puts me at the 83rd percentile. I just pulled this up just now. I didn't prepare myself at all for this. So you're like, I don't like that score, LeBounty. I want to get a better score. Okay. So you fight and you claw and you scrape and you get a 26. Great. You think that the industry is going to make a total difference. Everyone in college admissions is going to be like, yay, we got, and you only went up to the 86th percentile. Is any admissions counselor going to deny or accept a kid based on whether or not they were in the 83rd percentile or the 86th percentile? No, let's make it even worse. Let's make it worse. Let's say you got a 32 and you're like, oh my God, I got a 32, but I want to get a perfect score. Okay, the difference between a 32 and a perfect score, which is a 36, is the difference between the 97th percentile and the 100th percentile. Who cares? You've already nailed it. Okay, take it twice. Okay, so now you're in May and you've taken it twice and you like your score. You probably don't like your score because everyone seems to not like their score. And you're thinking, what do I do next? Should I think about applying to test optional schools? Wanted to talk about that because that was a big thing last few years. Test optional is like, what? Yay, we have an opportunity to apply without submitting a test score. But the thing that's insidious about it is that test optional schools never said, I think maybe a couple did, but most didn't, test not accepted at all. We won't look at it. So then what you put yourself in a situation where you're like, nicey, you don't have to send your test, Chris, don't worry. If you don't like it, don't send it. But all the people that got good scores sent it. So now you're at a disadvantage. And then another thing is you say to yourself, well, I'm just going to send it anyway, and they'll decide whether or not they want to use it or not use it so they can boost their rankings and all that nonsense we talked about in the rankings video. But the problem is once someone sees your score, they can't unsee it. And that happens good and bad. So we're test optional. Yeah, we're not going to give any preference to people based on their test. And all of a sudden a kid sends a perfect score. You can't pretend you didn't see it. So you want to take this test and you want to send it. And if you don't get a good score, I understand you want to use the test optional option if you can. But it's puts you at a disadvantage against kids who got an awesome score. And that's why you'll also notice that a lot of colleges will post their average ACT score with the hope that like people kind of get in where they fit in and that more people with high scores are going to apply to their school. And what they're actually doing is discouraging you because the only ones they posted were the ones that sent the score in. Okay, so that's like I'm going to get it way more into the standardized testing, but that's the thing about test optional. You can do it if you don't like your score. You should do it if you don't like your score. However, if you have you want to take the test, you want to prepare yourself for the test, and then hopefully you want to do good on the test, right? There's a lot of smart people like me who do poorly on these tests. Okay, so we're not going to define our entire childhood or our high school years based on this test. Okay, take it twice. Then now we're around summertime, okay? We did the test twice, and we're gonna start talking about writing your essay. Huge videos coming about how to write an essay. Not because it's more important than anything else, because it's not, but it's the part where I can help you the most for sure. because I can't help you with your grades. I can't do your homework for you, and I can't help you, with, well, basically anything else. I can't force you to be good at basketball, for example. But I can help you write a really awesome essay, which we're going to do that. So you're going to start thinking about your essay. We'll get into that. And then you're going to think about building your list. Okay, this is summertime now. You can do it, and you should do it a little bit before this, because summer, if you really want to annoy your parents, which you do want to do, is when you're going to probably go visit some of these schools. But for now, and we'll talk about this more, you're going to start building your list end of junior year, summertime. 10 schools. With my students, we do 8, but I'm just assuming that if you're watching this, you're like super eager and you're probably going to apply to more than 8. So let's just say 10 schools. You want them balanced. I don't like any schools except for the reaches. We cannot have a situation in which you're only applying to reach schools, and then we have like a total stressful year because you're getting rejection letters and mom's crying at the dinner table and balance out your list. What does that mean? You probably have a guidance counselor who will describe a similar framework to you, which I call the reach, target, likely. In the old days, we call them safety schools, but I don't know, it sounds kind of mean. So now it's reach school. It's like a little bit outside of my reach. I can reach it. If I get lucky, I can get in those schools. It's not like impossible, right? But it's a little bit outside of my reach. Likely school. I would be shocked if you, given your application that I'm seeing here, is not accepted to that school. And targets are in the middle. And targets are hard to find nowadays because, like I said in the other video, the distribution is flattening out in the middle. People think reach school means Princeton, okay? For some people it does. But for most people, you can apply there. I'm never going to discourage you from applying there. One of my most annoying moments as a college counselor was when I saw one of my idols in life, Michelle Obama, talk about how she was so mad and never talked to her guidance counselor ever again because he told her that Princeton was a reach school. And she was like, I'll show you. And then she went to Princeton. She doesn't understand. Michelle, you don't get it. That's his job, to explain to you that it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a prince from Saudi Arabia, or you can be the guy who just won the math Olympiad, okay? There is no person in the world by which Princeton or Harvard or MIT is not a reach. The guy who told you that was not discouraging you. He was telling you the truth. Okay, anyway. So reach schools, try to have them somewhere within your reach. You want to throw some like 40-foot shots in the mix? That's cool. You're going to do it? Fine, I'm just telling you. Then what you're going to do is you're going to start thinking about those schools and how you fit in, and ways you can do that is, people in this industry will talk about fit. I think fit is a little bit overblown because it's like, this is what's going to happen in college. You're going to go to college. You're going to meet 5 friends. You guys are going to hang out. You're going to study things. You're going to go to Chipotle and eat lunch. And it's going to be the same in every school you go to. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter what you choose. But I think this concept of fit, like, oh, this school has this type of kid and this school has this type of kid, isn't really that true. There's different kids from all walks of life at every college. So you should be thinking about other more smart things, such as location, Mom, I want to go to University of Alaska. What are you talking about? We're from New Jersey. You're not going to Alaska. I'll never be able to visit you. You'll never be able to visit us. Do you know anybody in Alaska? Do you have some kind of uncle in Alaska? Do you have an aunt in Alaska? Do you have some friend that you met in Alaska? No, I just want to go to Alaska because it's far away. Probably a bad choice, right? Location's important. Style of the university is important. That can be put into the fit. But style of the university, what I mean by that is it urban? Is it NYU in the center of the city in Manhattan? That's very different than being in some country town with like basically one stoplight. So you're going to think about those things. We'll get into that on list building. Then we're going to start talking about the deadlines, okay? Because now summer's over. You're going to apply to college in September. Yeah, but Labani, I heard there was like these different deadlines where I'm going to apply to these schools early. I'm going to apply to these schools later. No. That's coddling because people are scared about your workload. Oh, oh, Johnny's workload is, your workload's fine, okay? You're applying to all your schools by your deadline that I just gave you. Ready for your deadline. There are like a few schools in the South that this doesn't work. Your deadline is November 1st. It's as simple as that. You don't have to go to any websites. You don't have to talk to any people. Your deadline is November 1st. There are a few schools in the South, long story, Georgia, South Carolina, that have moved their early deadlines to October 15th. Messes up my whole framework, but generally your deadline is November 1st. Wait, hold on. I went to all these different websites and they all have different deadlines. Yes. But your deadline is November 1st. Why? In the old days, when your parents and I went to college, if most schools had one deadline, and that was the deadline, and it was January 1st. Then what happened is schools bifurcated their deadlines to save work into the early deadline or the regular deadline. And the regular deadline stayed at January 1st, and the early deadline got moved up to November 1st. Well, everybody's got to have a different story. So some people say, let's give kids 2 more weeks and make it November 15th. Some people say, let's give them another month and make it December 1st. Some people say, let's give them, November 1st and another opportunity. Doesn't matter. If you get it in by November 1st, you're doing the right thing. You're applying early. Applying early is better. Applying early will get you a higher success rate. Applying early will be more likely to get you the financial aid that you want. You want to apply early. There's no coddling necessary, but I have to write some essays. That's why you're going to start this in January. You're going to choose your schools in the summer, and you'll know your essays, and you'll write them, and you'll get your stuff in, and you'll be eating turkey on Thanksgiving. All your friends will be like, you've already done? I haven't even started. Trust me. Hundreds of students I've shepherded through this. Every time, LeBounty, you saved our holidays, you saved our Thanksgiving, you saved our Christmas, and all the kids got experienced much more success than they would have otherwise. Okay. So you want to apply by the early action deadline. And you'll notice it's usually called EA for early action. And if you don't have a school that has an option to apply early or regular, what you'll notice is they never went through that whole process of deciding that they wanted to have an early, and they just kept it at the regular. Okay. You're still going to apply November 1st because you're getting all this done so you can eat turkey and not worry. And guess what they're going to do? They're liars, and they're going to make decisions on who is getting admitted before the regular deadline. So those kids haven't applied yet, you've already got accepted. The other kind of deadline you'll see is called rolling admission. You can apply whenever you want. I love rolling admission. Apply whenever you want, and we're just going to read it, and then we're going to decide, and then we're going to read some people, and we're going to reject them, and we're just going to keep rolling like this. And when you see their deadline, it's going to be some crazy late deadline. March, April, May. You're like, whoa, I can wait all the way till March, April, May. No, you can't, because it's been rolling, and in November they were rolling, accepting people. And in December they were rolling, and they were accepting people. And all this stack of accepted people are... they're all happy to have these people, and guess what? The slots are gone for you. So rolling admission. Mom, LeBounty's wrong. I don't have to apply to that school till May 1st. Oh yeah, all slots are gone though. Rolling admission is cool, but you got to apply early. So what's your deadline? Same thing I told you before. Your deadline is November 1st. Then there's a thing that's very evil called early decision. Okay, sounds the same. Early decision. How can it be different than early action? Because it's a contract that the schools developed to annoy you and to put preference, like many things you'll learn in this course, to rich people. Early decision is a contract that says, I want to apply early. And I'm telling you right now that you are the only school I'm applying to early. And I'm signing a contract. Mom's signing it. Principal of the school is signing it. Sometimes it's a guidance counselor. This contract says, if I'm accepted, I'm going to your school. And you might say to yourself, like, why on earth would they do that? The reason they do that is because they don't have to worry about a term that annoys them that you don't have to worry about called yield. Yield is, I accepted 10,000 people. Let's make the numbers more reasonable. I accepted 1,000 people and only 500 came because kids applied at 10 schools and they get into all these different schools and they make a decision. So 9 people are going to get told no. Well, now I've admitted through like sending them acceptance letters 1,000 students, but only 500 have said, yes, my yield is 50%. Now they're annoyed. They have to go through this whole process. Now they know that for sure next year they can't admit 1,000 because then they're only going to get 500 and they have let's say 900 seats. They need to figure out what number. There's a whole guy, enrollment manager at the university who does this. He's got an Excel spreadsheet and he's like, you got to admit 1,852 people. Okay. Also, yield, crazily, is part of the things that we talked about in the rankings video that people start to put in the algorithm to decide if a school's good, which is dumb. So that's the first reason. Second reason is early decision allows them to basically know without asking you and discriminating against you that you have money. They love people with money. They can give them less financial aid. They worry about them less from a loan perspective, or they're not going to have enough money and decide to move back to where they're from or whatever. The reason that they know that you have money is that most people need to see. I've applied to 10 schools. I need to see all the people and what they're going to say and if they're going to accept me or reject me. And most importantly, how much is this going to cost? And because I have to wait to see how much it's going to cost, I can't apply early decision because who knows what package you're going to give me? It's too risky. And then the universities will say, Chris, this is not fair what you're saying. It's like not technically true. If someone finds that they cannot, for financial reasons, like pay for their tuition that we provide them, then blah, blah, and we'll let you out. But by then it's too late. You've already went through all this rigmarole and all this stress and you've tried to prove to them, I don't have that kind of money. You're telling me you want me to pay 45 grand a year? I thought it was going to be 15 grand a year. And then now it's 45 and now I don't have 45 and now I got to go somewhere else. And you can't apply early decision unless you're not concerned with what the tuition cost will be. Okay, last one, because they have to make it even more complicated. Some schools will have single choice early action. So it's early action, it's not binding, okay? It's like, just like Labounty said, all they're doing is dividing their work into 2 buckets. So we should do that. Single choice, what does that mean? Because you can only apply to one place. Because we want to feel special. Because if we're special, it'll help our yield, like we said. But then they justify it to themselves by saying, yeah, but we're not doing that binding thing. Like, you don't have to come. We're just saying you can only apply to one school. Why? Why are you special to the point that I can't go see what everybody else is going to do? Well, the reason we're special is because we're Yale, who has single choice early action, right? It's dumb. And all these things are basically done to preference what they want and not preference what you need, which is you need a number of acceptances. You need to see what all those schools are going to pay, all those schools are going to ask you to pay. And then you're going to make a decision May 1st. May 1st is the day that you're going to say, here's my $500 deposit. I'm going to your school. So we started in January and we went all the way to the next January. So I kind of lied because it's more than a year. But the college admissions process is over, okay? We're 100% done with this in November. So it's actually like an 11-month process. And then you're going to wait while they decide who they want to accept. And then you're going to wait while they decide how much you're going to pay for this. And then you're going to decide where you're going May 1st. It's a little bit of a long video, but all this stuff is important. And it's low on the me just talking and high on the what you need to know scale. So I'm hoping it's helpful. We will talk next time I decide to sit down. Probably about standardized testing. Ugh. All right. Talk soon.